Are you familiar with depression? I hope not. But maybe you are, or maybe there is somebody in your surrounding that is, maybe a good friend, maybe a relative or a family member. And if you saw it, or even worse, if you experienced it yourself, you know depression makes life really to a dark place. A lot of people who suffer from depression, and unfortunately more and more people suffer from depression, they have that feeling of being in a bottomless pit of darkness, and even funny things, even the beautiful things of life, even the pleasant things of life, they cannot really enjoy it. If you look on internet, what causes depression, you see all kinds of things. It can go from a hormonal situation, it can be an underlying disease, it could be you lost somebody or other nasty events in your life, there's a wide range of so-called possibilities. I don't deny that these things play a role. Of course they do. But they are not the real cause of being depressed. Being depressed is a physiological situation in your body. What is physiology? Well, physiology is basically everything in your body that moves. Whether that is your brain activity, or it is how you breathe, so your respiratory system, or it is your digestive system, or it is the blood flow, or the lymph flow, or hormones, it doesn't matter. Whatever goes from one state to another state, so that what moves in your body one way or the other is called physiology, our physiological processes. If we have feelings, regardless what kind of feelings, literally everything we can feel. There are more than 300 different types of feelings known by science by now that we can feel. And all of them in different levels. All of these changes that create feelings are the result of physiology. Depression is a feeling of hopelessness, a feeling of not being able to see things as they really are. Everything seems hopeless and dark and without future and without joy and without fun. So that's an emotion, that's a feeling. The big question is, if physiology controls our feelings, determines our feelings for 100%, then the big question is, what controls physiology? So why do I go into a certain state, a certain feeling, and, if possible, how can I get out of that state, especially when it is a feeling I don't like, a feeling like depression? It took me many, many years of research before I found how the subconscious brain creates feelings, how it controls physiology, how it is responsible for all kinds of diseases, all kinds of mental states, even up to the level not only depression or any of the other DSM-5 diseases that we know, but even to a level of autism. How is autism created? How does the brain do that? Can we do something about it? And if yes, and the answer is yes, to what level and how? Well, going back to the theme of depression, what causes depression? Once we understand what controls physiology, we have the answer. And about 15 years ago, the coin dropped and I understood suddenly, after 35 years of research, I started when I was 16 to ask several questions. I suddenly understood, I got a breakthrough, and I started to understand, wow, this is how it works. I was researching these things for myself. I needed answers to certain problems that I had at that time. And when I found the answers and shared it with other people in my enthusiasm, people kept telling me, Jacob, you can't keep that for yourself. This is something that can change the world. This is something that will definitely change neurology and psychology, because this is a total new viewpoint of how the brain works, of how we create emotions, of how we create beliefs, of how we get into certain feelings, like, for instance, depression. And so I started to develop all kinds of tools, all kinds of methods that you can use. And PMA is not a trick. I mean, there are many, many techniques out there, which is basically a trick, like affirmation, like motivational speakers, even like NLP is a trick. It's the Pavlovian, it's the conditioning of Pavlov. It's a trick playing with your brain. That will not really cure the root cause of depression. If you understand how depression is controlled by physiology and how physiology is controlled in our brain, you can do something about it. That's exactly what progressive mental alignment is about. That's how I call the technique that I developed over the years based on my total new and revolutionary insight of how the subconscious brain works and how it controls our life. Did you know, for instance, that the subconscious processes about 1 million times more information than ever reach your conscious brain, your awareness? That 1 million times more information process is necessary to create awareness. Without that, we would not even have awareness. But do you know what happens in that process? In that subconscious process, there are thousands and thousands of memories compared to each other. What will determine the type of memories that will be compared in a certain process? That totally depends on incoming information. So if I look at let's say at a chair or at a table right now, chairs and table experiences will become active in my brain. And that is why I know and how I know what I'm looking at is a table, or what I'm looking at is a chair, or what I'm looking at are eyes, or is a facial expression, or what I listen at are those words meaning that and that and that. All these things will always trigger whatever we see, smell, taste, hear, or feel, whatever we get from the outside world that enters our brain through our 5 senses, whatever that is, whether that is simple things like a color, a smell, a taste, a sound of words, the meaning of words, whatever it is, it will always trigger similar material in my subconscious that I stored there from previous experiences. And here's the thing. Whatever I store, whatever you stored in your brain, always comes with 3 different codes. Because if that would not be the case, we would not be able to memorize, to remember anything at all. We would have to experience the same thing over and over again, almost like Groundhog Day, almost the same thing, because that day was past and we have to learn it all over again. No, it's not working that way. We store all information that we perceive through our senses. And we always, no exception, connect 3 codes to it. 1 code will tell me what belongs together as one memory. So what connects these things as one memory, that's 1 code. The 2nd code will tell me what is it that I see, smell, taste, hear, or touch. What is it? What is the identity? We call it the identity code or the absolute value code. And then there is that 3rd, so very important code. And that is, what is that what it means? What means it to me? What is the meaning, the importance, the power of that what I see, smell, taste, and hear now to me? How do I feel about it? Oh, feel? Physiology? Controlling physiology? So what I feel about certain things is basically a physiological code. Is a code that determines what feeling, what physiology, otherwise I can't feel. There's no feeling without physiology. So what physiological command or code belongs to that segment, that part of what I experience through my 5 senses. That's how we store all our experiences. There's one exception. And Actually, it's not an exception because it stores it the same way. But there is one thing that can go wrong in our brain. And that is when the emotion reaches a level that we lose control. If we lose control, if we have no connection with our own feelings anymore, if we are so scared, so afraid of what will happen, that we lose all kind of normal behavior, but we just behave instinctively, like we are running on automatic pilot, the fight or flight response in the strongest way, at that moment a genetic program kicks in to protect us. And this protection program will avoid all unnecessary information to get to your conscious brain. But it will enter your subconscious brain. Meaning that it will have the 3 codes. What of that experience, that scary experience, belongs together? What are the ingredients? Colors, movements, smells, sounds, all small ingredients that create a memory, that create an observation. What belongs together? Code 1. What is it? Because I need that to survive. If it's so dangerous, I need to survive. What is it exactly? How is it dangerous for me? How do I feel about it? Well, it gives me panic. I get into a state that I lose control. And because that genetic program, that it will be activated, that survival mechanism, that genetic survival mechanism will create that blockage in your brain, that block in your brain that will not allow information to get to your conscious brain that you do not need to survive. How it is stored we call bad clusters. A normal memory we call clusters, this we call bad clusters. And how it is stored is with that particular physiological program that belongs with panic, that belongs with acting just to survive. And that has a severe impact on everything in your body, on your muscles. They tighten or they loosen, it depends on the situation. Your pancreas, your liver, your respiratory system, your stomach, your heart rhythm, the whole thing will be influenced by that code. That code is so powerful that it is more powerful than any other feeling, than any other physiological process in our body. And because usually every single thing that you perceive through your perceptions get its own specific value, we change these physiological commands about 40 times a second at least. So everything you see and smell and taste has its own feeling, its own relative value, its own meaning to you. But everything you store in a moment like I just described, a bad cluster moment, will have the same physiology, the exact same scary feeling. For that reason, our subconscious cannot use it afterwards, even if that is years later, as subconscious comparison material. But if you observe the same color or smell or taste or movement or facial expression or whatever that is also stored in the bad cluster will be activated. And the physiological code number 3, will be carried out. If that happens a lot, and if you are triggered a lot, and that could be by very, very simple things. That could be like a color in your house, a change that you made in your house, a different profession that you took on, a different car that you have, different people you meet. You can be activated by all kinds of things because the activation does not take place based on the same events, but based on simple things like a color, a taste, a movement, a pair of eyes, a facial expression, the intonation of a word, all single things in itself, and each of them can activate you. And each of them in a bad cluster will have that negative feeling of fear, that negative feeling of fight and flight in it. So you can be activated, for instance, at a party, or when you're down the road with your car, or wherever in life, or at your office. And suddenly you have these mood swings. You feel a feeling that somehow doesn't fit the situation. So you create belief systems to suit yourself, to comfort yourself. Oh, it's because of the air conditioning, or I ate too much, or I shouldn't have had that wine, or it's the virus, it's the flu, that whatever you come up with. If you are in a situation that once a bad cluster is activated, and for some reason the triggers in your surrounding do not change, so you stay activated, that physiology of the activated bad cluster stays active, which means your total feelings will change. If that holds on long enough, all kinds of diseases can come out of that. Actually, this process is how psychosomatic diseases, at least 75% of all diseases on the planet are psychosomatic, how psychosomatic diseases come to exist. Depression is just one of them. So the real root cause of your depression is not what happened to you when the depression started. That what you think it is activated something older, something hidden deeply in your brain. And the new understanding of the brain showed us how to get to those memories and how to, you could almost say, energetically rewire them so that you totally feel different about it. So in other words, that we bring up the content of these bad clusters, bring it to your awareness, and because we bring it to your awareness, suddenly a new code is attached to it. A code based on the fact that it was something you survived, something in the past, something that isn't dangerous anymore. And a total new, complex amount of physiological commands will be attached to that experience. And the physiology, the negative physiology, is gone forever. That is why PMA cures permanently. Not just soften the problem, it cures the problem completely, because it takes out the root cause. This was just a brief explanation. I mean, I could tell you so much more about how the brain works. I could tell you why you believe what you believe, how emotions are created, why some people have certain emotions about certain things, other people about other things, how all these processes work. There's so much to learn about the brain, so much exciting stuff. And I really wish that I would have more time to explain all these things to you, but there is a ton load of information, free information on internet. Just go on internet, progressive mental alignment. Go on YouTube, you'll find a lot of information there. On our websites you find information. We have books, we have seminars, we have programs, we have people that we taught to be a PMA coach, so we can refer you to them. There are all kinds of possibilities to get help, to get rid of your depression or any other disease that bothers you. I really look forward to meeting you in one of my next videos, because I'm gonna send you regularly emails about very interesting topics. Thank you for listening to me, and who knows, maybe we meet one day on one of my 8-day seminars.